Hey good people, and welcome back to the channel. On today's version of Top 10, I want to focus on my favorite Stephen Spielberg movies. In my opinion, Stephen Spielberg is one of the best movie directors of all time, and most of his popular movies were scored by one of the best composers of all times, John Williams. So it's easy to conclude that many people around the world have seen at least one Stephen Spielberg movie. For this Top 10 list, the criteria that I will be using includes Stephen Spielberg movies that I've actually seen, because I haven't seen all of them. But I'll also include movies that I enjoyed watching the most, and movies that I've seen multiple times as part of the criteria. So this list will start at number 10 and go down to number 1. At number 10, I have Amistad. Amistad came out in 1997, and it's a historical film that tells the story of the slave rebellion on the Amistad ship, as well as the Mende tribesmen fight for freedom. This movie absolutely nails it when it comes to the cinematography, as well as the costume and set design. I truly believe that I was transported back into the 1800s when watching this movie. I also thoroughly enjoyed the acting performances. This movie was packed with acting heavyweights like Matthew McConaughey, Anthony Hopkins, Morgan Freeman, and others. And I was completely on board when it came to seeing them on the big screen. But for me, the one thing that stood out about this movie was the decision to have the Mende characters speak their native language throughout the movie. This decision added a bit of realism to the story, because in similar projects like Roots and the Book of Negroes, we see African characters speak English until they have to interact with English or American-born characters. Then the African characters pretend not to know what the other characters are saying. So I like the attention to detail. I have this movie at number 10 on my list for two reasons. One, it's a very graphic movie about slavery, and although the movie did a great job of telling the overall story, it was still a tough watch. And two, the movie has a very long runtime, and because of those two factors, I may have seen Amistad 3 times from start to finish. It's an amazing movie, but I wouldn't want to watch it on repeat if I had a choice. At number 9, I have Munich. Munich came out in 2005, and it's a movie that takes place after the terrorist attack on the Israeli Olympic team during the 1972 Summer Olympics. What I loved about the movie Munich is that it came off as a true espionage thriller that made me question which side was the protagonist and which sides were the antagonists throughout the entire movie. The acting performances were great, the cinematography was top-notch, and the story, while not completely historically accurate, was easy to follow and understand. I've probably seen Munich from start to finish about 5 times, and the reason why I don't have it higher on the movie count list is because the ending was somewhat of a cliffhanger. At number 8, I have Minority Report. Minority Report came out in 2002, and it's based on the Minority Report novel. The movie shows a futuristic concept of a pre-crime police department that makes arrests based on crimes that a person might commit in the future. As many of you already know, a concept like this creates a very slippery slope, as the movie pointed out early on. I've seen Minority Report from start to finish about 10 times, and I love the action scenes as well as the acting performances. I loved most of the storytelling for the movie, but the runtime for the movie was a little longer than I liked it to be. I think the movie could have been 10 minutes shorter, and I still would have been a huge fan. At number 7, I have Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park came out in 1993, and it's a movie about a group of people who decide to play God and bring dinosaurs back to life for various reasons. As a kid, watching Jurassic Park was part of a core memory. The movie was absolutely amazing, when the dinosaurs were in it. You see, good people, as a kid, when I saw Jurassic Park for the 10th time, I was watching the movie for the dinosaurs. I didn't care much for the human characters and their motivations for what they had to do. And this is one of the reasons why Jurassic Park is number 7 for me. Another reason why I didn't have the movie higher on the list was because every time they come out with a new Jurassic Park movie, just like the Jaws sequels, it tarnishes the legacy of the original movie. Let's think about this for a second. What is the overall lesson that we learned from watching Jurassic Park? It was to leave dinosaurs alone. But some greedy organization always comes along and thinks that they know better. They mess with the dinosaurs, and they continue to F around and find out in these sequels. So it's hard for me to take the original movie as seriously as I used to, but I still acknowledge it as a good movie. But a third reason why Jurassic Park is at number 7 for me is because this is the only Stephen Spielberg movie to kill off all the black cast members. That's right, there were only 2 of them in the movie, and both of them met their end at a hungry dinosaur. Pretty messed up if you ask me, but the dinosaurs believed in equal opportunity when it came to eating people. At number 6, I have Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. This installment of Indiana Jones came out in 1989, and it follows the character Indiana Jones as he partakes in a race against time to find the Holy Grail before the Nazis do. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Indiana Jones series, at least the first 3 movies. The last 2 movies ventured a little too far left for my liking, but in my opinion, Last Crusade was the best movie out of the original trilogy due to its acting, pacing, and the interesting characters that play off of Indiana Jones. I know other fans of Indiana Jones may like the first 2 movies more, but for me, those movies were just okay, and they didn't capture my interest as much when I was a kid. I've seen Last Crusade well over 15 times, and although the action sequences were a little bit dated, it still holds a special place on my list of action and adventure movies. At number 5, I have E.T. the Extraterrestrial. The movie E.T. came out in 1982, and it's about an alien that was accidentally abandoned on Earth, and the alien befriends a kid named Elliot. Elliot and his family do everything in their power to help E.T. find his way back home. Now, as a kid, the escape and the goodbye scenes from E.T. are 2 of the most memorable scenes that I can think of, and I even had the E.T. movie on VHS, so I was watching it at least once a month back then. But as an adult, I rewatched E.T. several times, and I developed a great appreciation for the movie as a whole and the storytelling. Because this movie was made in the early 80s, there were a few elements of the movie that were a bit dated when compared to how movies are made today. But E.T. forever remains one of my favorite movies of all times. At number 4, I have Saving Private Ryan. This movie came out in 1998, and in my opinion, Saving Private Ryan is one of the best war movies I've ever seen. Set during World War II, particularly the D-Day invasion and the aftermath, the movie does a great job of capturing the gritty reality of the D-Day invasion, as well as the gruesome nature of battle during the time in history. I have nothing but praise for Saving Private Ryan. The acting performances are simply amazing across the board, the cinematography is amazing, the battle scenes, particularly the D-Day invasion and the final battle, are some of the best battle scenes I've ever seen in cinematic history. But to me, as good as this movie is, the brutality of man that's on full display makes this movie hard to watch at times. So in short, Saving Private Ryan is an amazing movie, but I have to take several months if not years between watching it again. At number 3, I have The Color Purple. The Color Purple came out in 1985, and it's a movie about a young girl's journey into womanhood as she navigates through life's challenges. And out of all the Stephen Spielberg movies, this movie is one that I've seen the most, and there's no close second. The Color Purple, which is based on a popular novel, tells the story of a young girl who had to grow up in a cruel world, not knowing what it's like to be loved, while experiencing one trauma after another before she eventually finds her inner strength. The movie had a powerhouse cast of actors with an amazing score to complement the acting performances as well as the cinematography. What separates The Color Purple from all the other Steven Spielberg movies on this list is that this movie was not scored by John Williams, which is impressive. However, my biggest mistake in taking this journey with the Color Purple movie was reading the book. In my opinion, the book manages to answer some burning questions that I had after watching the movie. And while I understood why the movie couldn't be 100% faithful to the book, I do feel that if the movie were more faithful to the source material, it could have been the best Steven Spielberg movie of all times. At number 2, I have Schindler's List. Yes, this may come as a surprise to some of you, but Schindler's List is not at the top of my list, and I'll gladly explain why. The movie Schindler's List came out in 1993, and it's a historical movie about a man named Oskar Schindler who saved over 1,000 Jews from death during World War II. In my opinion, the movie Schindler's List deserves all the praise that it has received over the years. It is the winner of 7 Academy Awards, 3 Golden Globe Awards. The acting, cinematography, and storytelling were all phenomenal. One could argue that the movie Schindler's List should be considered one of the top 50 best movies ever made. So why isn't Schindler's List on my top movie list? To me, Schindler's List has always been a very tough watch. And even though I've seen the movie over 25 times, it's hard not to get emotional when seeing it from start to finish. Several parts of the movie are extremely graphic, and there were very few comedic moments that were there to offset the horrific atrocities that take place during the movie. So while Schindler's List is an amazing movie, a masterpiece even, it's also an emotional roller coaster that I need time to decompress from before watching again. So I know this will be a controversial choice, But at number 1, I have the movie Hook. The movie Hook came out in 1991, and in the movie, we as a viewing audience get a story about the popular character Peter Pan as an adult who has a fractured relationship with his wife and kids. Peter's kids get kidnapped by Captain Hook, and Peter has to travel to Neverland and become his iconic self in order to save his kids. The movie was judged pretty harshly by critics when it came out, but I, along with many other people who saw it, truly loved it. Now as a kid, I loved the movie Hook for completely different reasons for why I loved it as an adult. As a kid, I was attracted to all the Hook scenes with the characters from Neverland. I liked watching Peter become Peter Pan. I liked the vivid color patterns throughout the movie, as well as the big action sequences in the third act. But outside of those things, as a kid, I really didn't care much for the story. But as I got older, the movie became a full circle moment as I watched it several more times, and I got something completely different from the movie. From the themes of how being emotionally unavailable can impact the people that you love, to learning how to live life in the moment, I can fully relate to those things as an adult, and sometimes I do wish that I could go back in time so that I could relive my childhood and fix the mistakes that I've made as an adult. So the movie Hook is at the top of my list because of the acting, the storytelling, the visual. I would even go as far as to consider Hook a cinematic masterpiece and a movie that was ahead of its time. It's also a movie that I've seen over 20 times, and I could easily watch 20 times more. So this is my top 10 list for best Steven Spielberg movies, and I know that I left some movies off that might have made it your list. So if you agree with this list or you would make any changes, feel free to leave a comment below in the comment section, and I'll be sure to reply to everybody. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.